Hello there. This podcast is brought to you by Fidesis, a digital product design and development company. For today, we have Bhavani Ravi, who is the senior software engineer at Sama Technologies. So, let's get started. Let's get started. Yeah. Hello, Bhavani. It's great to have you on Fidis Show. Hope you are doing well.
I am doing okay with COVID situation and everything, striving through.
Yeah, like same. It's getting worse day by day. So, my first question to you is like, share about yourself, like how you started with your technical journey and what interests you the most about tech.
Okay, so tech for me is like happened by the process of elimination. When I was in 11th standard, I had to uh, choose a path, whether you have to become a doctor or an engineer or an accountant or something like that. Definitely not doctor because I'm super scared of needles.
Okay.
With COVID, you have to get vaccinated also, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'm super scared even now. So that was not a doctor was not an option, and accounts was like I'm not so good at math either, but I also did engineering, which is very surprising for me also. But CS plus other sciences gave me a lot of options to choose from. So that's when I went into CS. Thankfully, I had a wonderful teacher who walked me through CS in like C programming. She taught me so well that I fell in love with C and then I decided I wanted to do computer science engineering. And yeah, from there on, every other subject I'll be like, should I read it? Only because it accompanied computer science, I could ace through it. Computer science alone is my like favorite. I would just read it any day.
Okay, that's pretty good. Like your favorite subject was computer science, and that's what interested you. So, also I have seen your profile, like you are associated with a lot of communities, like GD Chennai and Women Tech Maker. So, how do you think these communities help you grow?
Okay. Yeah, since GDG and Women Tech Makers are so huge that everybody talks about, it's very prominent outside, but I have been part of communities even before GDG. It was from 2016 when I started working, I've been part of communities from then on because that's something I lost when I was in college. College, you have only access to very limited set of people, only to professors, only to theoretical side, right? But when I entered the industry, I got exposed to all the application side of things. So that's how community started. And the prominent one where Black Then in 2016 we were working on chatbots technology. Chatbots was very new back then, and there was not a lot of content outside. Nobody knew how to build a chatbot application, what it's all about, whether it's just a fancy terminology. So we ran a community where we build chatbot technologies, we teach chatbot, and we talk to people about it, hosted meetups. So that's how I evolved. And in 2016, even now, if you go to some meetups, you will only see 2 to 3 people, 2 to 3 women coming into the picture. So when we were doing all the community work beyond, like before GDG, there'll be like maximum 1 woman or 2 women in the meetup. So I started this Women in Tech initiative where you bring women first into like have host women only events, and then followed by a collaborative event, thereby increasing the women's representation in each meetup. So that's how Women Tech Makers happened. So to have that ideology of women in tech represented even more, a larger community like this really helped. And yeah, networking is an essential skill that I have got from communities. I would any day give it to that. And this networking comes to you when you're also looking for other jobs. You can just reach out to your community and say, hey, I'm switching jobs, do you have anything open? And then of course when you're talking to so many people, you can connect them. You can just give them pointers as to be it mentorship or be it internship, be it connecting two people on 2 different projects. All of it comes into picture. And all also like in college, I was exposed to very limited set of theory and stuff like that. But in community, you get exposed to so many technologies, so many things that everyone's doing. You don't have to be mastered in everything, right? But knowing that something like that exists, maybe like something like chatbot exists, whenever you come across a problem as such, you will know what to apply. So those are my community days. I can talk even more about this, but yeah, this is the gist of it.
So it's like communities really do help people in networking and getting opportunities and learning a lot of things. So to all the students out there who are like not able to communicate or not able to get proper guidance in college, they should definitely join communities so that they can like ace and they can broaden up their knowledge, right? So
And
yeah. So another thing I would like to ask, like you are in college, like do you think like how much does CGPA matters for a student? Like I see in my college there are girls and boys. They'll be only sitting in the college classroom and listening to lectures because they want attendance, and they just don't explore. Like we will be running around here and there, and they will be like, "Nahi, I have the attendance issue or I have to listen to the class." By the end of the day they get a very cool CGPA. But I don't know, like is it like only about CGPA that matters in placement, or you should be exploring everything? What do you think?
okay, I have a very controversial, maybe a controversial opinion on this. I was almost a topper. I would almost score in top 10, and then
Okay.
I also like programming. So that's a very weird combination for someone. So I was like, I am guilty of everything that you said. I used to sit through all classes, never bunk anything, take notes, do assignments on time, prepare for your semester a month before the semester, like in your study holidays you would like utilize it properly. I was guilty of all of that, but I also practiced programming on the side. I've never networked, I never went to a hackathon, which are all things I regret. So when someone says don't put all your effort on CGPA, that comes from, I think that comes from a matter of privilege. If your parents are educated, for example, if I have a kid in future, I would not insist on getting more CGPA because I know what that is. But for a conventional background, when you have a parents whose only way to evaluate you is CGPA, you have to prove them that you are capable. Only we are that. They are not going to understand I have won a competition or I have done 5 programming concepts, right? For me, they come from a very conventional background, so I have to give them CGPA to get the privilege, to make them trust me. So I would always say it depends on where you come from, what your circle is doing. Would have not offered to have even one arrear. If I had had that, I would not get the privilege at home, especially being a woman in tech who want to enter career. I cannot have that privilege. So it depends on what privilege you are coming from. You have an understanding parent who understands CGPA is not everything. Balance your work. I would even not suggest getting an arrear. Pass in everything, but also focus on side projects, working on tech. Always, even if you network, always have a handle on tech. Tech is what's gonna get you the job. You can network as much as you want, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a portfolio to show, that's not gonna work, right? At least have some handle on your tech. Your skills comes first, then comes networking, then comes CGPA.
Okay, that's a very nice order you have said it in. Like I do agree on that. And the thing you said about privilege, yeah, like many of us we don't think in that way. Like people are coming from different background and they can have pressures. So it's definitely a very good guide. So also I have seen you are like into open source and stuff. So how did you get started with open source, and like how important do you think it is for like college students?
Yeah. Open source for college students is like the topic, like machine learning in recent times, right? But I started with open source very late in my career. 2 years into the career, I started actually contributing to open source. But that also had like, okay, let me talk about the contribution first and then talk about how it happened. So when I was working for this company called Orenscape, there was a reporting problem that we had to solve. We have to create reports, and whenever we talk about reports in Python, pandas is the library that comes to mind. So the first phase was research, and you have to find out whether all the specification matches whatever is provided by the library. And when we gone through it, there was some of the things which was not supported by the pandas library itself. So I went to the pandas library issues and raised all of this. Maybe we can add this feature, maybe we can add the other feature. And once I started raising feature, people were like, why don't you go ahead and fix this? Because the code is available, you can obviously make changes. Why did you go ahead and fix that? Okay. And then it took me 1 weekend to just make those changes and push it there. And it took me 7 months. It took another 7 months for the code to go in, like actually get into the repository. That's how they have structured the whole development pipeline, that every code has to be tested, every case has to be tested. They have a lot of documentation work. And those are all the things that I have learned from open source. It's not just about writing a bunch of code. It's about writing quality of code. It's about testing it. It's about ensuring that there is enough documentation. I would say if you're in college, if you're not getting any internship is more guided. If you're not getting any internship, go for an open source contribution. You don't have to push code. Just reading through those open source code base is good enough to improve your skills. You can just spend 1 hour every day just going through any of the and it should not be a random repository. It should be some repository that you already know. Maybe if you're using scikit-learn, go look at scikit-learn's code base. If you're learning React, maybe go look at React's code base. So yeah, it's all about getting the exposure of software engineering while not working for a company. That's what open source is all about.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah, I have also seen like there are a lot of variety. Like people, you say, like people who are not getting internship more. I say, like, even if you're a starter, you can just go and read those the readme files, so you will get an idea about how they have built it, and that will be good enough for you to start with that, right? So yeah, open source is important, and that was pretty cool. So I'd love to know about how your mentorship platform Build to Learn is, and what it is about, and how it helps students. Yeah.
So Build to Learn is not a mentorship platform, not a platform, but it's a community just like GDG or Women Tech Makers. It started after the chatbot workshop, chatbot meetups, followed by before GDG. So it happened 1 year in the middle. So more than community, I would call it a concept. Everything I have done from my college till now has been Built to Learn. So the whole idea is, let's say you want to learn Python. Rather than going through documentation, going through tutorials, the best way to learn it is actually start working on a project. And when I say project, it doesn't have to be really big, like a NASA project or an Instagram or a Google. It can be very simple to-do list application. And people take to-do list applications for granted because there are a lot of tutorials on it. But if you sit down and spend time on building it from scratch, you will hit a lot of hurdles, and that again will teach you some more. You will take another step forward. So that will give you confidence to build a larger application. So that's the whole concept of Build to Learn, wherein you learn something by building. So it happened like a mini sprints every weekend. When things were normal, we used to meet in one of the offices in Chennai, and then we build something and learn something, share ideas. And that was a brilliant 1 year. All my weekends I would spend on Build to Learn community. And with offline, people have a lot more work pressure and lack of time. All of that, we kind of shut it off. But everything I run from then on, be it mentorship, even if I mentor someone, I'll ask them to go build a project on themselves and come back. So it's not about teaching, it's about nudging them in the right direction to learn, right? So when I started my own teaching, for example, I run Python workshops and Python bootcamps online. I started this new initiative called as the Learning Tab. More than teaching, it's about giving people the right kind of resources and asking them to build when they are learning. The only way, I think, in tech, if you can learn it, is by sitting down in front of your laptop and putting in that effort. That's the only way to go forward.
Yeah, it's very nice actually. Like spoon feeding that professors try to do, or anyone is trying to spoon feed you, like teaching everything, that won't work. So it's very cool way, like you take a project and then you start from the basics, and then the functioning of it. When you read it yourself by the entire thing, you get a lot of ideas. So I completely agree with that, and it's a great initiative, I would say. So like also when you are like you have so many years you're working in this line, there might be some points, like the low points or the failures that take a held over your like mental health. So how do you deal with all those low points and keep your sanctity intact?
Okay, as we are talking this, I am in one of my lows. I'm not in my best self with COVID and family situation and the workload. Everything is actually weighing on me, and I'm not an expert to answer this, but since I'm going through this, here are some of the things that has helped me and is helping me. One is having a very strong family support. Without that, your low points, when you're at your worst, they will tell you where what are was your best. So I have a very strong family and friend support. Like you, if you have enough connections who you can reach out to and talk about, maybe I screwed up something at work. I go back to them and they say I screwed up something at work. They would come back and tell me, remember the time when you did it so well. Remember the time when you got those awards or certifications, stuff like that. So they would remind you that who you truly are. So having that connections is essential. The second thing is celebrating your wins. Whenever you're on your lowest, go back, look at your wins. You have come this far. Maybe you have scored good in a particular subject, even that counts. Maybe you did a good deed to someone, maybe you felt nice at a particular event. So all of this counts, even the tiniest little things, right? Another thing is, don't put yourself too much into work. I used to be like that. I was like that for the past 6 years, and it finally got to me at one point, and it is the absolute worst. Put enough amount of time for your health, your exercises, your food, your diet. All of this counts. Your mental health. If you need therapy, you need therapy. Or if you need a friend who can talk you through, like, be very conscious about your mental, physical, and financial well-being. All of this is going to help you in the long run, because we are not running a sprint, we are running a marathon. You need energy until you're 40 or so. So these are the things that you should keep in intact. I am very openly talking about this because this is something I have never taken into account. I have always been work. Even weekends I'll be in meetups. Weekdays I'll be 24/7 working, but it doesn't add up to what you're going through finally. So enough people support, enough financial and mental support. Take good care of your health. Spend enough time on chilling, having fun. All of this really helps.
Uh, yeah, like I totally can relate to you. Like we should be very much conscious about our own health and own mental being, rather than just doing work. And to all the people and students and the kids out there who are suffering mentally because of this COVID time, staying for like it's been 2 years, right? Like, almost 2 years it will get like so. Just stay there, hold on, and everything will be okay. So yeah. So also I would like to know, like, what helped you get so far in your career, like being a woman in tech? Was there any sort of hurdles for being woman in tech, especially, or like it was same as like normal other engineers? Like, how was your journey like till here, and what helped you grow?
What helped me grow, I would give all my whatever I have accomplished so far, be it community, be it at work. I would give all my accomplishments to my mentor straight away. His name is Dorai Todla. He has been a serial entrepreneur. He has ran multiple companies, and then he was an entrepreneurship guide at entrepreneurship cell guide at my college. That's how I got connected to him. I had the best privilege of working with him for the first 2 years in my career, and that has changed me in every direction, be it community, be it corporate life, be it working, be it soft skills, be it speaking. The whole transformation of my personality, the whole transformation of who I am really right now is all up to it's all because of him. So I was really privileged to have such a mentor, and that's pretty much the reason that I still engage with communities. I still want students to grow. I do as much as I can for their betterment. What was the other question?
So the other one is like I was asking, were there any hurdles like for being a woman in tech especially, or it was like normal, just like any other engineer?
Being a woman in tech had a lot more internal biases that I had to deal with rather than the external reciprocation that I felt. For example, when you walk into a meetup, there is absolutely no representation of women. You are the only one, and I often felt invisible. I don't know whether they made me feel invisible or I felt invisible. That's still a question mark. Nobody can answer it. But I never made a attempt to go and reach out to people and talk openly. Even because I was the only woman in the group, I held myself back to go and talk to anybody. So that's more of an internal bias. And then comes your questioning your self-esteem, questioning your self-worth, imposter syndrome, all of this. I think everybody goes through. I might have gone through what everybody else have gone through, but then there is another step of disadvantage when you're a woman in tech. Just the society's expectation you can never match, and there's no point in fighting as well. If there is one advice I can give all women in tech is don't try to don't try to expect acceptance from anybody, be it your parents or be it your relatives, be it your society, be it your friends. They're not going to accept you. Just move on. There's no point in fighting. The amount of energy you spend on fighting or trying to explain doesn't work. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time. Just if they are not accepting you, just move on.
That's great. Like, yeah, it's correct, right? Like, you should have expectations with yourself, and you should love yourself, and you know your self-worth, and no need of any other people's what do I say, acclamations. Like, you know what you are, and what you are worth it, and what your deadlines are, where have to match. So that's pretty cool. And it was great talking to you, Bhavani. I hope everything goes well in this pandemic, and stay safe and